We talked Michigan football. Is Jim Harbaugh most likely going to be suspended the first 4 games of the season for buying a recruit a cheeseburger, which is ridiculous, especially when you consider the fact like it's college football now. There's NIL money coming in. Kids are getting paid. You got starting quarterbacks making $4 million. You see college football players with endorsement deals. So this is nuts. And I was actually shocked that Harbaugh came back to Michigan. I thought he was going to test his feet. I thought he was going to test the NFL again, go back to the NFL after losing in the college football playoff last season. But he's back, and Michigan is the favorite to win the Big Ten, and for good reason. You look at that team, and they're absolutely loaded. You bring back J.J. McCarthy, who was a freshman last season. Blake Corum's back. He was a Heisman finalist. You bring back all those guys on the defensive side of the ball. But I don't think this is really going to affect them, to be honest with you, especially if it's the first 4 games of the season. Losing Jim Harbaugh, that doesn't really matter to me. It's not like I'm going to bet against Michigan or anything like that. And I don't think it affects, their season-long goals either, do you?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, the teams that they have the first 4 weeks, East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers, do any of those teams feel like that's going to be an issue for Michigan if not Jim Harbaugh is on the sidelines? Like, absolutely not. You could throw anyone on the sidelines to coach those games, and I think Michigan would be just fine.
If I was going to play a Big Ten winner, I would look down the board, and I would look at a team in the West Division. So I played Wisconsin at 8-1, and I also kind of like Iowa at 11-1, because you'll get a great hedging opportunity in the Big Ten title game if they are to see an Ohio State or a Michigan or even a Penn State. And, with Wisconsin, they're going to be so fun this season because you think Wisconsin, you think like Ron Dane running the football. Now it's a whole new offensive system. You bring in Tanner Mordecai, who was at SMU last year. He didn't have a good spring game. He threw 4 picks. But you bring back Braylon Allen at the running back position. And your toughest games this season on the road are Washington State, Illinois, and Minnesota. They're going to be favored in all 3 of those games. So I do like Wisconsin quite a bit. The Michigan Wolverines, who are plus 850 to win the national championship this season. They bring back J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, I believe 8 members of the defensive side of the ball. How does this affect them this season, this 4-game suspension? And what's going on right now at Michigan with this whole thing?
Well, it sounds like the 4-game suspension, we'll know more if that's actually going to happen in August. I know that Jim Harbaugh shut down that line of questioning 8 times yesterday at Big Ten Media Day because I was standing right there. And, as far as on the field, you guys know the first 4 games. It's East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers. Those are all high spreads games. I don't think Michigan loses any of those games. Maybe they don't cover one of them. Remember how they were a cover machine in some of those games last year, though, where they just pounded people. So, long term, I mean, it's only going to be a thing if they lose the game or don't win the Big Ten or don't return to the college football playoff. And maybe that's the impetus for Jim Harbaugh to entertain the NFL yet again. I know if I was him, I would.
And even though the Pac-12's going to hell, like USC's leaving, it's not going to be around very much longer. I like it a lot this year, especially like the quarterbacks in the Pac-12. You have Caleb Williams, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. You have Bo Nix coming off his best season. You have Michael Penix. You have 3 or 4 guys that could legitimately win a Heisman in that conference. I can't see Colorado getting to 4 wins. Now the big news, though, they're going to leave the Pac-12. They're going to join the Big 12, which no big surprise. What are your thoughts on that program? Like, are you a believer in what Deion brings year one, or wait and see, or are you like, no, I'm going to fade them every week?
I'm kind of a wait and see right now. Last season, it was fade them every week. They were awful last season, and they were awful against the spread. Like, you just take whatever team they're playing on the spread, and you win that every week. One of the worst covering teams all season. And I know now Deion's there, a completely new coaching staff, completely new roster, but it's hard to imagine that he's going to be able to turn this team around to where they're winning 5-6 games. Like, offshore, if you were able to get 5, take the under on 5, like that seems like free money right there. I could maybe see them getting to 4, but even looking through their schedule, like at TCU for their first game of the season, okay, you're on the road. TCU is not going to be great this year, but first game with this new roster, new staff, everything, I don't think that's a win. Nebraska, who knows what Matt Rule's going to bring this year? He should be able to turn things around, but again, early in this season, Colorado State, maybe you win that one. And then it's just kind of, you get into Pac-12 play, and it gets tough. Outside of Arizona State and Arizona, Washington State, Utah, Oregon State, UCLA, like there's just aren't many opportunities for them to win, even if this wasn't the first season with Deion there. But yeah, now jumping over to the Big 12 next year, it's just like these conference, it just doesn't seem like college football to me. When I think of college football in the Pac-12, like those are the teams I think of. The Big 12 having BYU and Cincinnati in it this year, it's going to take a little while for me to get used to those teams in these new conferences. And I know that's how college football goes. Every X amount of years, teams transfer to different conferences and things move around. We just haven't had that happen too much as of late, so it just seems funny to me.
But the reason I like Green Bay, so I'm a Bulls fan, I'm a Cubs fan, I'm all Chicago except for the Packers, and it's because my great uncle was actually the play-by-play broadcaster for the Green Bay Packers for a short period of time.
No way.
He also was the play-by-play broadcaster for the Milwaukee Braves before they were the Brewers. So the only time Milwaukee's ever won a World Series is when they were the Braves, and my uncle, great uncle, Earl Gillespie, my grandfather's brother, was the play-by-play guy. He was on the call when they won their only World Series. So I went to Lambeau. My wife took, like, me and my wife go, she's a rider too. We go in January playoff games. We like to go when it's like, we thought we were going to be at the coldest game in NFL history, the second coldest game, because there's the Ice Bowl, obviously. We thought we went to a game, it was going to be deemed the Ice Bowl 2. It was against San Francisco in the playoffs. But I think it was like 15 degrees, 14 degrees. So, love Lambeau Field. Even if you hate the Green Bay Packers. Have you ever been to Lambeau Field?
No, I haven't, and I would love to go. I'm not a Packer fan. I'm a Bears fan, so I can't like the Packers. But I would love to go to Lambeau Field. Like, that's just one of those things in football. One of the places you have to visit at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's the people there. You take the tour. Everybody's really nice. Even Bears fans. You know, everybody compliments the stadium. It's so crazy, though, because, you know, it's like Green Bay, Wisconsin is this really small town. You know, like, you think NFL stadiums, you think, like, big cities, you know. But Green Bay, it's like this really small town, and then just in the middle, there's this huge football field, this huge stadium, and this pro shop, and there's, like, all these bars. And they know how to do it big there, too. There's, like, concerts before and after every single game. They have bands. It's a great time. You got to get there. Lambeau Field.